What is up, Geeks and Geekettes? It's another episode of the Countdown City Geekcast. My name is Steady, and join me on the show is the man, the myth, the legend himself. You know him as JC.
Checking out my tan right here, guys. This is what summertime softball does to you guys. What's up? Hey, everybody. Go Horns on a long rain delay from rain. Can you guys bring that rain in Carolina back to Texas? This is insane right now.
Please, we'd
Please,
appreciate that very much,
please.
very
Yeah,
much.
my grass needs it.
And joining us once again, my Ghostbuster partner in crime, it's Matty B.
All right, let's get to it, boys.
Shout out to my wife for buying me this big ass 40-ounce water bottle. Comes in handy when you're coaching, let me tell you.
Welcome back to the Geekcast. It feels like we've been on a little bit of an extended break, if you will, but
Yeah.
glad to be back. If you're in the chat, say hello. We got some great topics for tonight. We're going to be discussing the Black Adam trailer featuring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Does he even use "The Rock" anymore, or does he just skip
Only in
all that?
wrestling circles.
There you
pretty
go.
much.
There you go. So that dropped a few days back, and we're going to be discussing that. We're also going to be finishing up tonight's show talking about the premiere of Miss Marvel, the Marvel Studios new series on Disney Plus. But first, we're catching up with everybody's favorite old curmudgeon Jedi, old Ben Kenobi. We're going to be talking about episodes 3 and 4 of Kenobi. And I know we're gonna get into a little bit of a back and forth, possibly. There's sort of two big sides of the fandom, the Star Wars fandom right now, about how this show is going.
Joe's not here today. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
Just saying. Yeah.
it's going to be a really positive show.
Juggernaut's on YouTube saying, "What's up? What's going on, sir? Good to see you
Juggernaut.
again."
What's up, Juggernaut?
And then Brett is saying, "What's up?" On
I got my
Facebook.
lightsaber
Is that
working
your
here.
lightsaber?
That is my lightsaber getting powered up, baby. Blue crystal's ready to go. Anyway, let's go.
There you go. So what we're
Brett?
gonna do is start out with episode 3 of Kenobi. You gonna say something, Brett? Matt?
No, just saying what's up to Brett.
What up, Brett? Here we go. My notes on episode 3 are like vastly longer than episode 4, kind of for obvious reasons.
A
There
lot
wasn't
happened. A lot really happened that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go. Here we go. I'm gonna try and get this through this as quickly as possible.
All right, what's the timer? How?
Oh god. Oh
Set the
Yeah,
watch.
pull it up
Set the
here.
watch. Set the watch.
all right, here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah. All right, ready? Whenever you're ready.
All right. Kenobi, part 3. We open with Kenobi and Leia arriving on Mapuso to meet with the contact of Haja, but they are not there. They later hitch a ride with a local who's also thankful for the Empire. He would lead Kenobi and Leia right into the hands of stormtroopers, but rather than going quietly, Obi-Wan takes them out in a firefight. As reinforcements arrive and start to detain them both, Tala Jurith, who has a cover as an Imperial officer, eliminates the last of the forces and escorts Kenobi and Leia to a village where they wait for transport off-world. The Inquisitors, on the other hand, are all vying to be in favor with Lord Vader, all trying to take credit or outmaneuver the other in order to gain power. They arrive with Lord Vader on Mapuso, and here's where the tension begins. Vader is brutal and relentless, letting his emotions drive him to kill and torture villagers as he looks for Kenobi, who stays behind and allows Tala and Leia to run for safety. Vader finally finds Kenobi, and this is the confrontation I expected before the season began. Their lightsaber battle is aggressive and one-sided. "I am what you made me," Vader would say as he taunts and nearly haunts Kenobi around this mining plant. He would later drag Kenobi over an open fire, but he does not wish to kill him quickly. Like I said, haunting him. Tala would come to his rescue at the request of Leia and has her droid remove him from the scene as Vader silently watches, but he's also not disappointed. He wants to hunt Kenobi. The episode ends with Leia getting to the hangar to meet her savior pilot but he lays dead on the floor. Riva now has the princess in custody. So that was episode 3. And if you remember back to our discussion regarding how often we were all thinking Vader and Kenobi would sort of duel with one another, I said expect one in the middle and one at the end. And that's all we're going to get.
Yep.
And it was just enough to sort of give us a tease or a taste of what's to come. But let's talk about that first. JC, your thoughts about our first confrontation of the season between Kenobi and Vader?
First of all, you got that under 2 minutes. Congratulations.
Woo!
Yeah. Like you said, one sided. It makes sense. Vader's been powering up for 10 years. He's been trying to readjust to this. He's ruthless. He's driven by revenge, you know? This guy did this to me. And whereas I'm not saying Obi-Wan's on the level of Luke where he's like cut himself off from the Force. He just hasn't used it for fear of detection, you know? And that's kind of, where he's gone away from it. He had so many times in this series, he's even trying to contact Qui-Gon, it seems, but he can't even make contact with him. So it goes about where I expected. Kenobi's just in shock that he's still alive when he thought he left him to die. So, uh, but yeah, like you said, it was aggressive, one-sided. The fire thing was like, damn, this is ruthless, man. That was crazy. That was really good though. So, uh, yeah, it's. I think that's a great start to it that he needed to save. So it makes me wonder when they get to part 6 what that potential final fight or final fight of the season is going to be, and how different it'll be as well.
Absolutely. Matty B, what about you, sir? Did their first meeting live up to your expectations?
I would say 75% yes. And also, big shout out to Joe, who's not here today, who was completely wrong about what was going to happen this episode. And I want him to know it. So, Joe, wherever you are, live in wrongness, and
Poor
we'll
guy.
crack a beer together some other time.
Poor
Anytime
guy.
Joe's wrong, great day. Yeah. So.
But I thought this would be the episode we would see him. I thought episode 3 would be when, because you can't hold it off for so long. You know what I mean? Like it was
Yeah.
going to happen eventually. And I loved everything about it up until the firefight with Kenobi. He puts out the fire to get him. Then the fire reignites. So we've seen Vader in the same scene, put a fire out. And then we see a fire reignited, yet he somehow can't put that fire out to get to Kenobi and kill him. I don't know why that makes. He could have just lifted him over the fire and brought him over. Either that's just bad storytelling, or Vader doesn't want to kill him. This isn't Vader at the peak of his powers. This isn't a unbreakable Vader. He's still like seeing Kenobi is shocking him just as much too. So maybe a moment of vulnerability. But the way that they ended that little scuffle didn't make much sense to me. They're just going to let a droid come on and carry him off to a bath to tank. I mean, Vader could have crushed everything around him. So letting him get away and that sort of thing, I thought that wasn't exactly what I was going to see. That doesn't mean that I hate it. I just don't know how it makes sense. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Can I say that I think anybody who also kind of feels in that same vein of like, you couldn't just like walked around the fire, or you couldn't have just like forced pulled that droid as he's
Isn't a suit fireproof?
carrying anything,
Uh,
right? Why doesn't Vader do anything? And I think my only answer to that makes any sense, whether or not the writers are trying to convey this, is that he's okay with continuing this torture of Kenobi. He
Playing with his
doesn't
food.
want this to be a quick and easy death. He wants this to be stretched out. He wants him to run. He wants him to be fearful of Vader. And I think that even though it's a huge helmet that he's wearing, I feel like it's him being so patient and watching Kenobi leave. It's not it's not an emotion of disappointment that he's getting away. It's just more like I'm gonna see you tomorrow. Like you're not going anywhere. You're going nowhere, as Bonesaw would say when talking to Peter Parker.
He
So
says
yeah,
it
I
kind of
think
the
that's all it
beginning.
is.
This is just the beginning of your suffering. It's he wants him to suffer probably for the better part of 10 years, just like he has been. It's
But
not so much
letting him go is more of a danger. So he can make him suffer while not letting him go.
that, yeah, but I mean, I think Ted said it too. Maybe the hunt is part of it too. He wants the hunt. He wants to take him down. It's to sort of know that he's in his head, kind of a thing. And if we're looking at the greater picture, what is there any other reason? Is there any other possibility why he might also let him live? They haven't mentioned this in the series, but they have to know that Yoda's still alive.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of episode 3,
Sure.
uh, Sidious is like, well, that means he's alive. Find him because they couldn't find the body. Maybe they expect him one. Maybe their plan is to capture and torture him to see if he knows or to find him, sort of thing. So we haven't seen a mention of Yoda. I don't know if we're going to see Sidious at all in this series. Highly doubtful, but I mean, it's possible if there's any sort of interaction between them.
The breath of him is there.
Yeah. So that's the only potential reason I can see why he's letting him go. Or the other reason is they're trying to track him to the rebel. It's not even a rebel rebellion, a rebel base, if you will, but they know there's some sort of resistance. They've discovered a network of people that are helping Jedi. Does Obi-Wan know where these other Jedi are? So there's a greater plan there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
It
I
just
I also think it could be just as simple as like this is all Vader's been thinking about for the last decade.
Yeah.
Like he's thought about nothing else other than like where's the guy that left me for dead on the side of a volcano and who he really does still think took everything away from him, like
Yeah.
wife, future, everything. So uh,
He's
it's
the reason I have to
always been
sleep in a back.
thinking
He's the reason I have to sleep in a back to tank. He's the reason I have to get my arms and legs attached every morning and get dressed a certain way, like a robot. And he's been doing that for the better part of 10 years. You know?
so
Yeah, and it's like
even
I told
even
you on the plane, Ted,
what's
because
that?
I texted you after I watched it because I watched the episode on the plane with 3 rows behind me, like what's happening. Um, but I just but it goes to JC's point as well. He's been sitting in this Bacta tank for 10 years. The only thing that Vader does in his existence right now is sit in the Bacta tank and think about the mistakes he's made, Padme, and hating Obi-Wan, and then executing simple orders as Vader. Complete this mission or die. I mean, that side of his life is actually super easy.
Yeah.
It's dealing with what he does in the Bacta tank, and a quick kill of Kenobi on that planet doesn't quite scratch that itch.
Yeah.
He's
Not at
looking for
all.
a bigger hit.
Bryce is in the chat saying Vader is going to make him suffer physically, mentally, and psychologically. Absolutely. And I think that's half of it. The other half is kind of just what Matt said. It's been 10 years of suffering and he's had this rage for that long.
Yep.
He wants to savor this moment too. Not only is it like, I'm going to make him suffer, but I really want to enjoy this. And if I just get this all over with in one night, then I'm not going to fulfill this hunger that I've had for the last decade. So I think not only is it torture Kenobi, make him pay for what he's done to me, but
Mhm.
also uh, he needs to kind of fill this void, and he thinks this is the way to do so. I want to ask you, gentlemen, how do you think the rest of the episode went? Um,
Well,
there's the
quickly, I want to say Daniel has a comment here about the Anakin ghost. Um, asked if they had that Force dad like Ray and Kyle. I was kind of taken back by it. Interesting. I don't know if that was more of a Force ghost or if it was more of the fact that he found out Anakin's alive. That's how in Kenobi's mind, that's how he sees him. So he's starting to have visions. He's starting to like, where is he? And I think that was more of like a nightmare vision. Notice it was Anakin appearing as Anakin. As it was Vader Anakin pre-suit. So yeah, PTSD, like you said there, Daniel. So it's not like he's never seen him as Vader in the suit. His only memory of Anakin is seeing him cloak, very similar to Jedi look. Uh, the last he saw of him was seeing him burning alive on Mustafar. So, um, but yeah, as far as how the rest of the episode went, I mean, I think what stands out to me, and this is more Vader esque, just they did a great job setting up just how ruthless and angry Vader is
Yes.
when he's walking through that town and he's just killing people left and right, choking them, torturing him. I mean, just somebody sitting there just snaps their neck. I was like, damn,
Yeah, and
crazy.
that sets up also what we were talking about of him playing with his food, because it
Yeah,
showed you that scene was very necessary to lead up to that scene with him and Kenobi, because it showed he's willing to take a life like that.
yeah,
He's very willing to just snap necks, kill families, deliver terror,
yeah,
and so the fact that he would have immediately taken that turn in personality when he meets with Kenobi shows you that he wants to sort of play this out. And I thought leading up to the series that we were going to get ruthless Vader, and we did get that a little bit in that town scene. You see that, but I think we're
yeah,
also getting a very vulnerable Vader a little bit. And we'll talk about that
Interesting.
when we talk a little bit into episode 4 and some interactions with Riva. But I think we're not exactly seeing Vader at the top of his game. I think finding out about Kenobi put a shock to the system and Vader a little bit as well. I don't know that he's um, firing on all cylinders, so to speak.
yeah. That's very true. It kind of threw him off. Whatever he was worried about, all of a sudden when he
Yeah.
realizes Kenobi's alive, he's focusing straight on that. He's ruthless, and it's you can tie it back to how he is in Rogue One.
Hmm.
This leads into how ruthless he was in that movie, not just in that scene where he's killing everyone in that hallway, but just earlier when he's like force choking, I forget what's his face, just for potentially failing him. So this is honestly, we'll talk episode 4, but when we get to 5, I wonder if 5, at least half of it, is going to be dedicated to the mind of Vader,
Yeah.
mind of
It
Anakin.
has to be, in my
Yeah,
opinion. I think it has to be
yes, something in the mind. Is he playing back and forth with Anakin and Vader? Is he playing?
that
I mean,
duality.
yes. Like, I mean, you don't advertise Hayden Christensen in it and not see him as
Because
Anakin.
so far, Hayden
Yeah,
Christensen could have not have been involved in anything, as far as I've seen so far. I think we
yeah,
have to, we're going to have to get to that at some point. You talked about Rogue One. I did like how the consistency of what Mustafar and Vader's castle looked like in Kenobi as it did in Rogue One. It was the same castle, same everything. We didn't get that with the Inquisitor's fortress because it looked different in Kenobi than it did in the Fallen Order, I think it was.
yeah.
Um,
Very different.
uh,
Although, is it the same location? That's something that threw me off. Is it
yeah,
technically the
I
same
guess they probably
location?
could have more,
Yeah,
and you know,
yeah. I'm wondering because I'll be honest with you. When those probes, we'll get to episode 4, but I was having nightmares when certain things showed up in episode 4 video game. But
Episode 4, I think, is super interesting, even though it wasn't
yeah,
as impactful as a Star Wars fan of like what you're seeing,
if
But
you played the video game, I was having PTSD just from this damn probe.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, for sure, 100%.
I'm like tap L1, god damn it, So yeah,
Hmm.
You guys brought up Vader sort of torturing and killing the villagers as he's walking through. Can I
yeah,
just say that this was the first time you see Vader sort of eliminating people around him that he doesn't really have a reason to? Like, we've seen him kill officers of the Empire, and yet like he does that when they've failed him, and
yeah,
he's attacked rebels if they're in his way for various reasons. But this is the first time where he's just like gone ballistic for like no reason on just randoms, and it's
Yeah, it wasn't someone
very
stealing Death Star
intimidating.
plans.
there's
It
a
It's
reason.
wasn't.
So they
nothing
fear
Yeah,
like
him.
that.
There's a reason. So
They
they fear him. That's all it is. Yeah.
they
So
they fear him already. I'd fear him if I was
and
he's
walking.
emphasizing
and
it. So
And the only other senseless murder, I guess senseless in the word of no real reason to do it, was when the Death Star destroyed Alderaan. But I think Moff Tarkin gave that order. It wasn't even Vader. So I
no,
think
it was
that's
Mothra.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that's definitely the first time we've seen him at will just kill someone who had nothing to do with what was going on
yeah,
whatsoever. And so carelessly and swaggy at the same time. It's so weird how he was marching through there and he was killing people in town, and I'm cheering. Like, what the? Why am I cheering?
It was so dark, yeah. Brett's in the chat says also love the way Leia handled the stormtroopers, saying Ben was her dad and leading Kenobi on what to say. Great little actress playing Leia. Carrie would be proud of
Damn right.
this young girl portraying Leia.
Vivian
And I
Lyra Blair. She's amazing. This is gonna go somewhere. So
there you
yeah.
go, there you go. I think there's been maybe some mixed reactions, not a lot. I think most people have been praising her. But let me just say, I think she's done a fantastic job. I wouldn't want to see Leia portrayed any other way. People think that like, oh no, she had that attitude later on in life, and I'm like, I don't think so. I think
Yeah.
this is a trait of Leia's that youth that probably was with her all through her youth as a teenager growing up, and then even as we saw her at the beginning of episode 4. So I feel like the way they've portrayed Leia, the way they've written the character is spot on how I would have preferred it, and I'm glad to see that this young actress is doing so well.
And
She's been incredible.
not to slam dunk on Joe again, but I'm gonna. Um, he was he was saying that that he didn't think that that Leia that him and Leia and Vader they hadn't quite interacted. I was like, dude, look. And then we get it in episode 4, and I'm not going to go too far into that before Ted transitions, but she literally goes through the same thing as she does in A New Hope. It's almost the exact same scenario. Like when the doors open, I thought Vader was going to come out,
Yeah.
but it was Riva.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Let's see. Anything else regarding episode 3? It was very weird. I was very aware
Mhm.
of Kenobi using blasters in a firefight with stormtroopers. I'm just like, this is cool. It's very odd seeing Kenobi using a blaster to take out yeah, a bunch of stormtroopers. I'm just like, this is a new thing for me. I was very aware this is a new thing I'm watching. This is a new experience, and I went with it.
It, it's
Just
it's
very
odd, but it
odd.
makes sense because at that point he's still trying to hide the fact that he's a Jedi. You
Right.
know, it's dear because think about it. They don't realize he's a Jedi until Daniel's so uncivilized, hilarious. But
Yes.
he's better aim than a stormtrooper, right? But they don't realize he's a Jedi until the probe identifies him.
Right.
Makes sense. That's why he's hiding the lightsaber. That's why he never brings it out till the Vader fight, and it makes sense for him to be using blasters in that situation, not using the Force, still trying to hide who he is because I mean, in this world where cameras are everywhere, you figure any little thing that happens, they're going to report it up and they're going to know, oh, there's a Jedi there, And so that probe reported it. That's the only reason they found out. Had it not been for that damn probe, he still would have flown under the radar. We don't know if Vader would have realized he was there, you know?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. No.
And
Absolutely.
also a little bit of because as the stories have progressed a little bit, we've learned that the Jedi are very connected to their lightsabers via the Force.
yeah.
And so I think that his lack of ability with the Force right now, him kind of being weaker with it, he may not feel as confident wielding it as he would have before because they're not working as a unit. He can't connect to it fully.
Like a samurai with a sword. That's
Hmm.
yeah, how it is. Connects to a soul. So,
Pretty much. Pretty much. Let's get into episode 4 now, part 4 of the Kenobi series. And like I mentioned, my notes are a lot shorter than they were for episode 3.
we'll
Sorry,
see.
part 3. Kenobi part 4, and I'm going to be riffing a few of these final ones. Kenobi takes a Bacta bath after being barbecued. Then he and Tala strategize a plan to save Leia. The two of them sneak into the Temple of the Inquisitors, where Kenobi stumbles upon a tomb of old Jedi and Padawans. Riva tries to torture Leia in order to gain information from her. Tala Tala is able to subdue stormtroopers and save Leia in the nick of time. And Kenobi is able to retrieve Leia, and they are able to get off world. Okay, yeah, kind of straightforward. This is all about
42 seconds. Nice.
the
Good job.
rescue. It's all
Yeah.
about the rescue, and I think a lot sort of less happened, but that's okay in some regard. There's going to be some things in this episode 4, that I'm going to say are indefensible, and I'll leave it at that. You probably can guess what I'm talking about. But all in all, I like some of the elements that they try to do in here. Primarily was the sort of darkened room where there's two stormtroopers on either side, and Kenobi ignites a saber, takes out the stormtrooper on the left, and then deactivates it, reignites it again on the right, and takes out the stormtrooper on the right. That visual right there is like, yes, we need to see stuff like that, stuff we've never seen before. And so there's a lot of really cool moments along in this series where you do things like that, things that are kind of new, things that are inventive. And then there's some moments sort of later in this episode, Tala. I said subdues, but that's being too kind. She kind of slaps a stormtrooper, and he sort of like stumbles back like it was being like he was being slapped by, I don't know, Thor or something. And I'm just like, wait a minute, that didn't just happen, right? I kind of paused it, rewound it. I was like, maybe she like turned off his oxygen and output, or maybe she like hit like a speaker thing, and no, nothing. It was just sort of like a and then like he just fell back. I'm like, that should not have been enough. That's indefensible. I don't even know what to call that. I just there should have been another take or something along those lines. Um, but yeah, episode 4. Let's get your thoughts, Matt. We'll start with you, sir. What are your thoughts on episode 4?
Well, I agree with the Mary suing of that character because Tala, I think, plays a very crucial role. A lot of people online are calling her the Game of Thrones gal, but she's playing a very crucial role, and this is a very vital role in the beginning of the Resistance and setting up sort of the Underground Railroad of the Jedi's. And I hate that they tarnished that character that is so smart and so good and vital to the story with what started before even the open palm knockout of the stormtrooper. Like that, obviously, that's super stupid. But earlier in that scene, she's sitting there, she's trying to give directions to Kenobi, and another Imperial officer comes over and says, "What are you doing? This isn't your sector. Come over here." She subdues this grown man with other people in the room. And he's just sort of laying there, and everyone is supposed to just ignore that. She just goes back and sits down like everything is normal. And then she gets called out again between two stormtroopers. Train. I mean, we know stormtroopers are not the most efficient warriors, so I think that it's possible she could take out two stormtroopers. But in the way that she did it, was again indefensible. That's cheap. It tarnishes the character in a way that wasn't necessary because you're building up this character that's so good. And I really liked the storyline, but that took me completely out of the scene when that happened. But yeah, I'll leave it there. I'm going to Joe Garcia on this.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
Daniel still in the chat says we forgot Quinlan Voss. Help me out, Daniel. Was he?
Did I miss that?
That was a cameo.
No, they reference Quinlan Voss in episode 3 as another potential Jedi out there who wasn't.
That's right.
Yeah, he had written his signature or something on the thing.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then Bryce says, this Vader is very unhinged and so rage-filled. It's kind of cool to see how powerful he actually is. I feel that in the original trilogy, he was more reserved. Yes, he could destroy someone on a dime, but this is the first time other than at the end of, let's see, it continues on. Rogue One. Other than at the end of Rogue One where we see Vader's true anger and ruthlessness. Absolutely. Daniel says Jedi tracker who touched the dark side and came back. And Brett's also praising the Quinlan reference. All right, JC, your thoughts on episode 4, man.
Yeah, this is where I was having flashbacks to Fallen Order. Jesus Christ. And that final scene, especially with the damn probes, I was like, oh my god, I gotta step away. Those things they just get your heart racing, man, because those suckers are ruthless. But it was very, very Obi-Wan-esque as far as him sneaking in through the water, using that. I know everyone's focusing a bit on the Tala thing, but she was basically playing the role of R2, if you will, because they didn't have a droid to connect to a port and tell him where to go. So she's playing that role. But yeah, it was a bit odd that she subdues an officer and goes back to what she's doing, and nobody bats an eye. That was, maybe you could have done something a little different. Maybe she finds like a workstation somewhere that's like not out in the open. So, um, but with her, I focus more on how she got out of that situation,
Right?
the
Yes.
whole double agent side of it, and you start to wonder: is she really on the Jedi side or not? And I think that's coming into question. I know um, she helped Obi Wan escape, but third sister puts a tracker. Does she know that? Did she assist in that? So it's like, whose side is she really on? I think that's going to be the back and forth here, and that's going to leave everyone guessing.
Yeah, and
I
I was. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ted.
I was just gonna say I did love the part of this episode where Tala is able to out talk her way with someone who was sort of a subordinate or under her in the chain of command, and then as soon as like the next guy later on says something, I'm like, oh, their outfits are the same. They're the
Yeah,
same rank. Like you can't get out of this one the same way you did the last time. So yeah, it was just like it wasn't gonna go the same way.
Um,
Go for it. What were you gonna say, man?
yeah, just I saw very similarities between what Tala was doing to Riva,
mhm.
that what Riva was doing to Vader, and
Yeah.
so there was a very double agent vibe with Riva in this episode to me. And it actually gives me a bit of a question as to, is she actually pursuing this role of Grand Inquisitor? Has she actually turned fully to the dark side, or is she also sort of interested in finding someone, maybe a friend from that Order 66 scene or something, and she knows this is the best way for her to stay alive, and it's also the best access to resources in order to obtain her goal in the end, which may not be as the Grand Inquisitor. I have thoughts that she might be sort of teetering on the light and dark side as well.
I'm not convinced she wants to be a Grand Inquisitor. She wants beyond that. She wants to be a Sith. It's
I think
beyond
so
that.
too.
She wants to be Vader's apprentice. That it's not a what's his name, Starkiller, which is Legends now. Great
Yeah,
video games, by the way. But I think she wants it. She wants more of the pellet. She wants that Sith. She wants to be trained to be a Sith. She doesn't just want the whole Inquisitor third sister role. She wants something beyond that. Yeah,
I
she's trying to
think
prove her worth.
I think they did. I think they did specify in a prior episode. I think it was two. They actually mentioned Grand Inquisitor, and she was like, "Yeah, yeah." Her eyes lit up when that came about. So I think that that is definitely like the next step she does want. But there's probably more that will go beyond that. Brett says Riva is rounding out and getting better with each episode. She felt just a little flat in the first episode. It is getting better and better as it goes. And then Daniel says Leia interrogation scene showed how good
Yes.
that actress is. I think she's fantastic, and I like the sort of the different attitudes and aggressions of the Inquisitors. And Riva, I've been saying it since episode one. She's a very resourceful person. She's really the only one of the Inquisitors getting anything done around here, and she's doing that because she's sort of street smart, and she knows how to play sort of the Jedi's emotions against them, and so she's really making things happen. She's really the only one that was able to locate Kenobi eventually, and so I've been really liking how they're writing the character so far. How it ends up, I'm not going to pretend to guess. I think there probably is a little bit of a twist in there that they're going to try and show us, because they keep showing us the Padawans, right, on more than one occasion.
Yeah.
How that kind of comes into play, we shall see. Um, but yeah, I
Ted, did you freeze?
He may have. Um,
Ah,
but another thing that I wanted to bring up, and I'm sure you're interested in this as well, because again, we talked about episode three, and because of that
oh
monumental fight
back
scene there,
yep.
um, that episode got a lot of attention, but I think a lot more questions were raised here in episode 4. Um, we haven't quite got to Obi-Wan walking through the tomb
Not yet. Yeah.
of Jedi's.
That was freaky.
Um,
Why
yeah.
are they keeping those bodies there? Like,
Well, if it's canon, right? I would think that that's Palpatine, sort of keeping them to maybe source their blood for cloning to try to
uh,
find a body to get back into. But also, it's just kind of weird. And there's also there's a screen capture, and I'm sure I could find it. But people are thinking that Mace Windu is in there as well.
So there
I
is a
was looking
screen.
for some Easter eggs, but I didn't catch it. But go ahead, Ted. Yeah.
There is a screen capture, and I've seen it as well. And there's one big flaw with that sort of theory, and that is in the screen capture, the person that they're viewing has a right hand,
Ah,
and we all know what happened to Mace. He actually lost, I think, his right hand or both of his hands right before he was tossed out of a tower and across the city.
yeah.
So I'm not 100% against the idea that it's Mace, but I think that I
Well,
would
it seems
lean
like they're
towards
teasing it
more not. Yeah,
because
Yeah,
they
that's
would have
easy.
made that more impactful. Like if Obi-Wan's walking through this tomb, and of all the Jedi he came across and he saw, like if Mace Windu was in there, they would have had to have made it like a much bigger thing. Like if Obi-Wan were to notice Mace Windu in one of these things, it would require a little bit more of it showing the attention that Obi-Wan would give to that. He wouldn't just walk past that one and be like, keep moving.
Oh,
absolutely.
there's a guy I knew, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's not going to.
So I'm not sure if I'm down with that, but it is an interesting thing, um, of him going through that. And then we also get we see, what's the planet called again? Um, Jabim. So that's like the location of where they're bringing the Jedi. This is kind of like the end haven of the. And I didn't know Ice Cube's son was going to be in this.
I remember seeing him mention that he was going to be in there. But that was him being a leader on the path,
Because
and yeah,
I IMBD'd it, and or DB'd it, and it was his name was just a question mark, but he was credited. So I
yeah.
didn't
Yeah,
know, maybe it was a voice actor or something else. But it was interesting to see him in there as well. So episode 4 was just kind of crazy in its
This
own way.
this was kind of the birth of the rebels of the rebellion too, because
Hmm.
at this point, the path is just trying to help Jedi escape. They're trying to get them out, and then they lose one in a fight, and it's like, well, you're soldiers now. I mean, that's impactful. It
Hmm.
really comes up like, hey, you're all in now.
That was a
This is,
heavy scene.
yeah, very like, you're doing dangerous work, and now you're taking the empire on head on. This is something bigger now. And that was pretty awesome. That was pretty.
Yeah, and
It's
that
this series doing more than I thought it would on that level. Yeah,
And that scene was cool too, because that's the first time we've seen the snow speeders, I think, since the Empire Strikes Back.
yeah.
ooh,
The
yeah.
That's the when they came in and attacked the stormtroopers and Riva, so they could escape. We haven't seen those in a while either, so it was definitely tying back into that real rebel mentality. Kind of showing that upstart of the rebellion, and they didn't always have the best ships, but they had the heart and they were willing to come in and do what it took. But then you get that scene with them, like you were talking about, JC, of um, I guess your soldiers now. And like some
Yeah,
of them are kind of callous to it, but the people most affected by it were like, damn, this is getting heavy.
yeah,
And then Leia's holding Kenobi's hand at the same time, sort of looking at him, and that was one of the best scenes of the whole show, I think, was that ending scene of episode 4.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
I liked it a lot.
it's the first time Leia is introduced to that. Like, there's something bigger too, and I
Mhm.
think that this, I'm pleasantly surprised that this is doing more for Leia's character getting into Rogue One in Episode 4. How does she know Obi-Wan? How is she involved with this rebellion too? This is really setting that up for her as well.
And why she was so unafraid in A New Hope.
Yeah,
Because remember, Vader brought in those droids, the interrogation droids. That's way less scary than what that machine Reva had her in. Um,
yeah.
it
Which actually is a bit, she kind of falls into again when he's about to torture
Yeah,
her as well. So yeah. Mhm.
exactly. Yeah. So it's I thought the duality in this episode of
Yeah.
or the polarity of it, kind of showing both sides and also tying it back into the episode when it comes down to Tala, Riva. The ending scene was starting the rebellion. There was a lot of good things in this episode, I thought, and it didn't get that much love online. But compared to episode 3, that's kind of tough. But I kind of thought this is one of my more favorite episodes, actually, of the series so far.
Yeah, for
Brett
sure.
in the chat says that scene gave me Matrix battery vibes, talking about the tomb. And Daniel says there was that goat-looking Jedi that trained Padawans. That's right. Yeah, definitely. I am curious who some of these other folks are. I think they get into some really deep lore when it comes to that, and I need to do a little bit more digging, because yeah, some of these folks look really interesting.
To see some of
I
the young ones in there, geez, that's
the
heavy.
yeah, to see the Padawans in there, and I like the idea that they're keeping them for a reason. Like you said, perhaps using their blood to help resurrect fallen Sith. Like for the future, that could be one thing. It's interesting that it's just a tomb, like trophy cases. I thought maybe they were almost like in this sort of clearish carbonite, like amber, where you could thaw them out over time or another time. But no, like Kenobi says, this is a tomb. It's not like it's um a thing where you can
Yeah,
resurrect them or
yeah,
or or
they're not
thaw
in
them out later
suspended
on.
animation, but
Yeah,
also great,
absolutely.
great meme though. Great meme came out of that, where it's like Kenobi in the top scene walking through the tomb, and the next scene is Austin Powers like frozen.
Oh yeah. Oh behave. Yeah.
Obi.
Oh behave. Brad right there, Master Taro Sunubi, who helped train Ashoka. Yep.
There you
Yep.
go. Awesome. Uh let's see here. This episode was a little short, but the action towards the end I think, really helped elevate it a lot. I really wanted to see I wish they would have spent a little bit more time in sort of the mind space of Kenobi at the beginning of this episode. He really got into the whole let's go save Leia, I think a little bit too quick. I would have wanted them to spend a little bit more time of him sort of dealing with the fact that he just realized, Anakin's alive. He's now Vader. He totally whooped my ass. And I don't know what to do about that. That kind of a thing. But,
Yeah,
it takes off really quickly. And so it's not a complete deal breaker to me, but I would like for them to spend more time with the emotional aspects and the components of this show, because we know these people so well. We know Kenobi, we know Vader so well. Let's linger on the emotional beats a little bit more, because we're already invested in these characters. And so the emotional weight that they can carry is a lot greater than some of these new characters that we're seeing. So, episode 5 and 6, let's talk about that now. Theories, what happens, what's going down, how does it finish? If you say Kenobi or Vader die, then I don't think you've been paying attention. But let's get into that. Daniel says, "Okay, was Kenobi and Vader connecting while both in the Bacta tank?" I'm not 100% sure.
Somebody is.
Was
I am.
that is this
Yeah.
you? Yeah, Matt says 100%.
I mean,
It's weird.
it's possible. It also
I'm on the fence with
lends
that.
to Kenobi is starting to go through the same shit Vader is going through. He's
Mm.
part of his torture. I just burned you. Now you have to live through this. And but yeah, I think that's part of the reason Kenobi couldn't handle being in the tank is maybe he was connecting through the Force or he was getting visions of Vader in his head. I think that's why he freaked out. I think that's part of it. Not just that you're underwater with a scuba mask on, if you will, but I think that's part of the reason why that there's some connection there when they're both basically you're trying to relax and that's when
Most
your mind
connected.
is
Yeah.
connected more to the Force. Yeah. So
Yeah, and it was this. They made the same body jerks in
yeah.
the tank. They were moving in the same. They were connected, and whether they meant to or not is a question. It's possible, but I think at that point they were both sort of sinking into each other, whether they wanted to or not.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion, and I'm just an idiot. So who knows?
JC, how does this series end? We got 2 more episodes left.
God, I don't know. I mean, I'm not 100% convinced this is the only season we're gonna get. I feel like there's so
Really?
much more they can explore. You know,
Mm,
we're I mean, obviously we're still seeing this whole Leia, but there's just so much you expect to happen. You only got 2 episodes to work with. I feel like there's more they can do with this. There's more involvement. Like, what else is Kenobi going to be doing on Tatooine? We've barely even scratched the surface on how he figures out how to become a Force ghost, if you will. So, um, I fully expect them, hopefully in part five, to explore on some level into the mind of Vader. Is he still battling his lighter side self? The key in there is, as Padme said before she dies, there's still good in him. She's talking about Vader. It's something that Leia echoes, I think, in Return of the Jedi, and Luke on some level too. There's still good in him. So uh, maybe he's battling that good within himself. That's what I want to see out of five, at least in part of it. Um, but I do expect in six there to be some final battle. Obviously not on Tatooine because Vader doesn't know where he is. If he was on Tatooine, this would have never happened, right? So, but I don't know if this is going to go back to Alderaan or something. It's if they're gonna. I think though by the end of six they're gonna establish some sort of rebel base. Um, uh, what's the planet that Leia says it's in on New Hope? Uh,
hang on, hang
Dan,
on.
I forget the name of it.
Um,
Right
it's
before
not
they destroy Alderaan, she gives the name of where the rebel base is.
it's not Hoth. It's
Dantooine, something like that.
Dantooine. I think it's
There you go.
Dantooine. I think that's
So
exactly right.
maybe they set that up with the end of this, and yeah, cool, got it.
Mm.
So maybe I think maybe they set that up as the final battle on Mustafar. Whew, that'd be interesting if they go back there where it all began. So I don't know if it
Kenobi.
becomes epic in episode three, but yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Just no more damn
Uh,
probes. The fucking probes, man. Just back.
Matt, your thoughts. How does this end, or what do you need to see? What's left for you to want to see by the end of season one?
There's a lot that I want to see, and I was kind of alluding to that pre-show. Um, I just don't know why Disney just won't give people what they want. I don't know what they're teasing out or what it might be. There's no way that they're going to resolve this in 2 episodes without splitting the fan base even further. I don't see it. So I'm on board with JC. Of I think there's more to be shown here, and I think there's already some filmed. I think they're going to wrap this. I hope next episode is mostly Vader and mostly Kenobi trying to connect with Qui Gon, because that's going to have to happen here soon as well. If this is one season, we're going to have to see Qui Gon. So I would love to see a lot of Vader,
Thank you. Yes.
and then I'm also going to like to see Kenobi actually making contact with Qui Gon and maybe getting some sort of bit of information that cliffhangs us into what might be their final battle before we see them again in New Hope in episode 6. So if they're going to wrap this up, they're going to need to do that in episode 5, and we can't keep spending time on these ancillary characters. Like I love them. There's no reason to. I hope them all the best, you know. But if we're going to wrap this up in the next 2 episodes for the story that people care about, next episode has to be almost fully focused on Vader. I'd say 75%. The other 25 is Kenobi trying to make contact with Qui-Gon, and then finally making contact at the end. One brief little synopsis of, or one brief little quote from Qui-Gon at the end that sort of sets us up for episode 6 and that final battle.
This is me not being like extremely pessimistic or anything, but I don't think that they came up with a story that was going to surpass all the expectations of the fans. I just like seeing Ewan McGregor back as Kenobi. He's had some fights with his lightsaber. Um, these episodes aren't long enough, and it's also more evident when you've seen a series like Stranger Things, where they don't care how long the episodes are. They're going to tell the story they want to tell, and however long it takes, we're going to do it that way. Maybe Disney just cares more about their budget or whatever else to absolutely just go all out. But now that I know that they're not going to go all out with this season, only limiting it to 6 episodes, and all these episodes have been well under an hour so far. At least I'm pretty sure they were.
The first one was 55, but the rest have been in that 40-minute range. But and then you got to include the 6 minutes of credits, right?
Yeah,
So
the credits
Yeah.
too. They're
yeah,
definitely.
Which
I think
of
the
the
only
finale
thing, the only
is
thing I
it?
really, really want to see is him speak to Qui-Gon, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that will happen because they've already teased it in the first episode. Qui-Gon will probably come to him in a vision right before the final confrontation with Vader. And it's also one of these things where like we can't have this conflict have a resolution that's going to be satisfactory. That's the biggest challenge with coming out with a Kenobi series and still having it sort of revolve around Vader and the Empire. I think when I kind of heard they were coming up with a Kenobi series, I was like, cool, let's go see Kenobi go off on an adventure that we didn't know about or didn't expect. And I thought about, him protecting Luke from someone. I didn't think it had to be the Empire per
mhm.
se, but now that they're doing that, they're so limited on how they can resolve this. And you can't eliminate Vader from the story. He must go on. You can't have Vader eliminate Kenobi. His story continues. So you're kind of left with like the other characters, Riva, the Inquisitors, Tala, like their stories can end going forward, but you're so limited on how this will get resolved and if the resolution will be even enough or satisfactory to the fan base. I think that's a challenge they've sort of put themselves into. You can't have this major big battle, right? Because there's no rebellion yet. There's not a rebellion that's large enough to sort of even have an offensive to go up against the empire. So using this story and including Vader this way, like it's such a challenge to write something that was going to be satisfactory with just this box that they've put themselves into. I don't have any high expectations for these last two episodes, and that's not me saying it's going to be bad. That's just me saying like it's so tough. It is so tough to write or do anything that's going to be worthwhile. At the end of Mandalorian episode 2, they brought in Luke Skywalker.
Mhm.
Did I say that right? The end of the Mandalorian second season is what I meant to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
The end of the second season, they're bringing Luke Skywalker to fight off these, evil bots, these evil cyborgs, and like you can't do anything like that. I don't think you can. I mean, if they decide to bring out somebody like Yoda or like a Mace Windu, who I think is still alive, I mean, that's a possibility, but it's also you've already tried it before, so is it going to be too repetitive? That's another possibility. I don't think this ending is going to be a very elaborate, big resolution. I will happy if I'm wrong. I don't see a big way for them to resolve it. These two will fight once more. I said they'll fight once in the middle. It won't go well. It didn't. And they'll fight once at the end. And by the end of it, these two are going to have to go their separate ways. And I want there to be a very unique component to that final action. I don't think Vader's going to let Kenobi leave without having a reason. And that reason is very complicated. And I think it's going to have to be some sort of like minor mutual respect, like Vader's going to let him go because of reason. I don't know what that reason is. He's saved his life more than once. I don't know. Maybe
Does he
he'll
suspect that that he knows he has kids out there and Kenobi might be
He
watching them? You
can't.
think
He
that's better
can't.
off?
I like that idea, but you can't let Vader know he has kids because he yells at Leia in episode 4, and he's
Well,
like, "I'm
yeah.
sick of your stuff." It
He
just
doesn't realize he
it
has a
can't
kid
be a
until
thing.
episode 5.
Yeah,
Until
Mhm.
Empire. So you have
that's
to
what I'm
keep that.
saying.
Yeah.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
speaking of not retconning the future one though,
Mhm.
does Kenobi has to win this next battle if they do fight again, right?
Win or at
Kenobi,
least let it be a stalemate. But he has to fare a lot
Because
better than he did the first time.
because
Yeah.
Vader says in A New Hope, when I last saw you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master, implying the fact that he gets schooled a little bit in I think that Vader has to Vader can't come out looking good in this next battle if
Mhm.
we're not going to retcon what he first said to Obi-Wan in A New Hope.
Okay.
This is what I said before the season started. That, and I'm trying to come up with the scenario in my head where this makes sense. But these two have to leave on some sort of term of a truce. At just right now at this point, they have to leave on some term of a truce. And I think that only happens if Vader's life is saved or spared by Kenobi. Then there's this sort of like, all right, you let me live. I'm going to give you some time to, go back into your hole and I'll come after you again. And it must involve the Inquisitors, possibly. Maybe the I don't
But
see it
they,
happening, but maybe
Mhm.
the Inquisitors are like, we want to be the apprentice. Maybe Reva's like, I want to be the apprentice of Darth Sidious.
Later.
Let me take your
Yeah.
spot, and then that is a thing where like Kenobi helps out Vader in a moment, or like
Mhm.
something blows up and Kenobi saves his life. Very like Bruce Wayne, Ra's al Ghul esque at the middle of
I know what
Batman
you mean. Yeah, yeah.
Begins. Yeah, like, okay, you saved my life. Like, I'll give you some time to get out of here, but this isn't going to be the end. That kind of a thing.
Yeah,
They
I don't see Vader
should.
doing that. I don't see Vader doing that. I just can't.
Vader's okay, but how else does Vader just leave Kenobi alone? Tell me.
Vader has to lose in this next one
Vader has to
because
lose the
He
fight. Yeah.
can't. How
Yeah.
does he lose? How does he lose?
losing to him would be just being suddenly subdued by Obi-Wan, maybe caught
Mhm.
by an unexpected move, and Obi-Wan escapes. Like
But
it
if
just
he escapes, like it has to be a loss great enough to where he can't even use the Force to stop Kenobi.
Mhm.
He can't even like do anything. Like he's going to, and I don't see Vader doing that. I don't see him giving up. Do you see Vader giving
I
up in
think.
a fight?
Well, no, I just think there's a point where they're fighting. Obi-Wan sees that he's pretty mechanical, pulls a fucking cord uh, on his suit, and then subdues him for a minute, and then gets away. Because all I know is that in Episode 3, um, the way that Vader was manhandling Obi-Wan around, it would not make sense for him to have that line in A New Hope, which Dave Filoni and John Favreau are not going to let them retcon. Of the last time we
Ooh.
met, I
You
was
know, I think I got it, but go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, but that's all I'm saying. I think that Vader is going to have to lose this next battle. That doesn't mean he dies. So I
Look,
mean, it's possible for him to lose, especially to a master, and when he's so emotionally invested. Usually, the more emotional fighter loses.
look at
Yeah.
the way Vader was fighting in that fight scene with Obi-Wan in the series versus how he fought him in A New Hope. In A New Hope and beyond, he's fighting more to protect his life support system.
Hmm.
This is his priority. He's not really too worried about that when he was fighting Obi-Wan, at all. He's
Yeah.
swinging wild. He's more aggressive, not playing a lot of defense. And I think that's where Obi-Wan realizes maybe that's what it is. Obi-Wan gets his life support system, starts
Hmm.
starts hitting that, finding that one weakness. And that would explain why Vader changes his style of fighting in the future, where we see him in episodes 4, 5, and 6 and beyond, is that I think someone said it earlier, he didn't look as ruthless in those episodes and in the original trilogy as he does here. And
Hmm.
maybe that's why. Maybe it's this upcoming fight against Kenobi where Kenobi exploits that. He's not playing a lot of defense. He's not protecting what is keeping him alive.
Yeah,
And
and his
maybe
fight
that's
style changes dramatically from what we see now to A New Hope for sure, and
yeah.
then even through the rest of the trilogy, even when he's fighting Luke,
Mhm.
very and he did have a little bit of that one handedness, sort of kind of keeping guard, but nowhere near as much as he is from A New Hope into Return of the Jedi. So I agree with you there. I
Yeah.
think, but something's got to happen, and they better figure it out fucking quick.
Yeah. I
I
think I think Brett mentioned Ahsoka. I'm sure there might be some ties into this. Unless Ahsoka is supposed to take place before this, I have no idea. They haven't really said if it's going to be after or before Kenobi. Um, if they don't give us, or at least tease us a second season, uh, give me some mention of Cal Kestis to set
Right?
up the next
I'm
Fallen Order
totally
game.
on board. The
Yeah,
actor is age appropriate. We
Yes, he
should be
is.
able to see him in live action.
I mean, even if it's a quick scene, but with the next Jedi Fallen Order being called Jedi Survivors, and with the fact that they've introduced the path and that, maybe the sequel to Fallen Order is following where they're getting surviving Jedi, how that story goes from there.
I hope
So
so.
yeah,
I hope so
I
because
think
that
that can tie in well.
the Fallen Order was one of the most engaging pieces of content I've gotten from Star Wars in a long time. I was thoroughly engaged in that. And video games tend to help you with that, right? Because you're more
Immersed
involved
in it,
in it,
yeah.
and yeah.
I mean, that's why
So
I have that's why I have PTSD when I saw the freaking probe. So,
no, yeah, but they were accurate to the time as well. And speaking of video games too, I think in that episode, Obi-Wan used the Force to make a distraction.
yeah,
Um,
Yes.
for yeah, and
yeah.
so that was very back to that wasn't the Fallen Order, but
Metal
what
Gear
was it?
Solid.
I
Yeah,
mean, I did it a couple times in Fallen Order. I just needed something to get
yeah,
the trooper look the other way, and yeah, so
yeah.
yeah.
But I think overall, it's just they have to. What do you guys think the possibility of this is? I think that we have a cliffhanger in episode 6, and then we're like, damn, what's going on? Like a Sopranos ending scene where it's just the screen goes black, and then it says part 2, and then gives a date of when the next part's coming up.
I
Uh,
don't know. I don't know.
if they don't do that, they got to give it. And even if Cal shows up in a post credit scene,
Yeah, they
it's
got to
like
give it their all in these next. I
yeah,
just don't know if they got it in them. I think it'll tear the fan base apart. And I get what Ted was saying too about it's hard to write, but the Disney knows what the fans want to see, and the only
yeah.
reason why they wouldn't give it is because they don't want to. It's harder to not tell the story we want to hear than it is to um, just tell the story they want us to hear. I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm very interested to see though. I'm very invested
I
in that
think the
answer.
I think the fans don't know what they want, and it's just for in talking about Kenobi because we've already seen Kenobi in his prime. Like Kenobi episode 3, that's Kenobi in his prime. Like the only thing fans had left to see was Luke Skywalker in his prime, and
Are we going to
kind of
see
got
Luke?
and we kind of got that. Well,
I
we've
don't know.
seen Luke in this episode. I mean, this season he was in the first episode, just
For
Yeah,
like
sure.
pretending to
Is he going to get a
fly and
bit of
all
a
that.
Leia treatment here? Do you think he'll have um, do you think he'll have any like legitimate scenes?
No, I don't think
no,
so. And that's fine. I like how they tricked us with showing Luke in the trailers and leaving
Yeah,
Leia out, and now they twist everything on us. I do like that. Let me call
I
out
like that
these
too.
these comments real quick.
yeah,
Daniel says the last scene is flashback when Kenobi was training a 10-year-old Anakin, and Anakin says he loves being a Jedi. Black screen for sure.
yes.
I'm down with that. Brett says I think they're going to carry the Inquisitors and some of that storyline over into Ahsoka. I can see that as well. But I also like the idea of Ahsoka just looking for
Ezra
Ezra. I like that idea
and
too.
Thrawn. Yeah,
Oh, Thrawn. That's what she's
Thrawn and
actually trying to
Ezra.
do.
Yeah, that's what I think it's going to be. But I think the
I hope
Inquisitors
so.
could certainly be involved.
Mhm.
Brett says Vader is either going to believe that he killed Kenobi, or he's going to think that he's completely broken Kenobi for him to let him go. Vader has more control and less anger than in the original trilogy. I had a similar thought as what Brett just mentioned. Rather than it's either going to be this, it's either a truce, like Kenobi spared his life, so Kenobi, you got a 5-year head start, and I'll come find you later. Or like Brett just mentioned, he thinks Kenobi is dead for some reason, fakes his death, some way somehow, and he doesn't need to go after him anymore. That's also worthy enough, I think, of this resolute of resolving or ending this first season. I can't imagine there being another way. I really can't. Despite what anyone says, I anything other than one of those two ways would be less satisfactory, in my opinion. That's just my opinion because we know we can't see anything greater than that. We can't see a true victor come out on top in this last fight, or at least the way we'd want it to. That's just not possible. Now, if we take out all these Inquisitors, if Kenobi gets surrounded by the Inquisitors, takes them all out, like, hey, that would be enough for me. That's good. Let's watch that happen.
Yeah, we're
But
not going to get a duel of the fates.
no, we won't. We won't
No,
get
yeah,
Duel of
well,
Fates
yeah,
Part Two.
yeah.
No, but I just if nothing else, what we got from this Kenobi is we got to see Kenobi dealing with defeat. We never saw that in the prequels. You know, I mean, obviously he lost Qui-Gon, but then he still beats Darth Maul. And you know what, Daniel?
Yeah, I love it.
He's gonna hit and run.
Daniel says it's got to be like a Money in the Bank. Reva's gonna cash in after Obi-Wan gets a good hit, and he has a chance to run when Vader's distracted. I love it. I love it.
Don't give Vince McMahon any ideas. It's bad enough he couldn't sell tickets to Money in the Bank, had to move it to a smaller venue.
Hey,
But
we had
the rest of
we
the
had we had zombies on a WWE pay-per-view event. The next
oh
one's
my
gonna
god,
be Jedi and Sith at the next WWE pay-per-view. You know what else? Real quick before we end this discussion topic, shout out to Rudy who sent us 20 stars. That is a thing you can now do. You can now send stars to the Geekcast. If you have any, if you like to support the show, you can do so by clicking the stars button. Send as little or as many as you like. We appreciate everybody. But Rudy, you are the first person ever to send us stars on a live stream. So congrats,
nice.
man. Appreciate you a lot.
Kudos.
Appreciate it.
Love you, Rudy.
Absolutely.
Love you, bud.
If anybody else has thoughts about how this series will end, or my last question would be, do you actually want to see a second season? And I don't want to influence anybody's answer, but I will start out by saying I don't. I don't want to see a second season. I think Mandalorian is successful because it's exploring new things that we did not see in the Star Wars universe. You know, a young species of Yoda. Um, you know, going out and exploring more about Mandalorians and Mandalore. Like those are things we haven't seen in live action before, and I think that's why it's so successful. You're not limited to the canon of the Star Wars Skywalker saga. So that's why I think so. So if you ask me, do I want to see a second season of Kenobi? I will respectfully decline. I think if they can just wrap this up in as a decent enough bow as they can, I'm willing to let it go. We got to see McGregor once again wielding a lightsaber, and I think that's just going to be enough for me. JC, if you have an option to see a second season, would you want to or not?
Right now, yes, but it depends on if it's like you said. Like I said earlier in the show, I feel like you need to have one because I feel like there's so much more they need to bring in. But I think I'm with you. If they wrap it up appropriately, then sure, maybe we can leave off with just one season. But I would like to kind of see a second season because I don't know. Maybe there's more to this story, you know? Because I mean, if they do it one season, there's still like what, another 10 years before A New Hope. What else is he doing in that time? So yeah,
Shout out to Brett who just dropped 99 stars so far. Our overall leader.
It's
thanks.
JC. It's JC's insight
There you
that
go.
brought it right out of him.
Or it's because I
That's
did
what
this.
it is.
It's one of these two things. I have no idea. So,
Yeah, if you ignite your lightsaber on Cam, people will
Yeah.
send tokens.
Yeah.
But I do think that I agree with JC though. I always want more Star Wars.
Yeah.
I
Sorry, I
don't
saw
care.
Brett comment.
I don't care if it sucks. I want it to just come out. I
Yeah.
want more Star Wars. If there's a season 2, yes, I'll take it.
Mhm.
If Joel Schumacher wants to start making Batman films again, yeah, I'm gonna check it out. I want any content of the things that I love, and so I would definitely be on board for season 2, and only because I just don't think that they're going to be able to wrap it up in 2 episodes, and I'd rather not deal with the loss of something that could have been great and let them try to fix it in a second season. So I think I'd want to see it.
And I'll pose the same question to anybody still watching the stream, Brett, Daniel, anyone else. Would you want to see a second season of Kenobi, or do you think you sort of are getting your fix with just the one? Daniel says, "Well, Joel kind of died." Oh, yeah, I guess that's not going to happen. Sorry, Matt. Big time. Oh man. The answer is I don't know yet. I think that's how everybody is, right? Isn't that
It
a
depends how
weird
they wrap it up. It depends how they wrap it up. Yeah. So
isn't that like kind of saying a lot already. Like we're 4 episodes in, we should probably have a good idea by now. Like 4 episodes with into the Mandalorian, I'm like, I'm all in. Give me as many
Yeah.
seasons as you want. But in
It's like you just
again,
said, we're restricted by canon on this one.
we are
Yeah.
Yeah.
restricted,
No.
and that's
100%. Yeah.
why I say it's a much bigger challenge to write for Kenobi if you are dealing with the Empire. If Kenobi goes off into the Outer Rim and he's dealing with like smugglers or like a gang or something that kidnap Leia, totally different story. And I think like that kind of would have been a little more enticing. You can defeat a bad guy who is not supposed to show up in the original trilogy, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that would have been just an easier route, not a better route, an easier route for the writing team canonically to see. Brett says, I like to see it all resolved in one season. I'd watch another season if they made one, but it would be better if they wrapped everything up in this season. I get it. I
I
get it.
agree. Yeah, I
I'm with
agree.
that. Yeah. Daniel says, I don't mind them retconning, but I don't know how he can do anything without being found out. I agree. I
Anyway,
completely
you look
agree.
at this. This is going to make Vivian Lyra Blair a star, and
Yeah.
she's great as Leia. Um, and me as a fan of the His Dark Materials trilogy, she's done her middle name justice as an actress. She epitomizes what I think a young Lyra, a Belacqua Lyra Silvertongue would be in His Dark Materials. You get a lot of that, not just as Leia, but you see a little bit of Leia and Lyra together, and I think it's pretty amazing to see. We have a star in the making too. So it's if this is the only Star Wars we get, because I don't think we can tell a whole season about young Leia. She's not going to be young forever, right? But
Mm.
this actress is going to go places. I think this series is going to be a big reason why.
Political drama like West Wing, but on Alderaan featuring the Organas. Like,
It's House of Cards,
come
Might
but
have to
on,
be
that
people forever. Come on.
that's what Boba Fett was supposed to be. Boba Fett was supposed to be a show like The
I was hoping it was
Sopranos.
going to be a mafia show. Yeah,
Yeah, like a mafia type
that's
show.
exactly what I wanted it to be. That's what I thought it was going to be. But again, it goes back to, and I know you disagree with me, Ted, because you don't like to be negative, but Disney does know how to do these things. We should never have to be complaining about a bad story. That should never have to happen. We should never, with all the money that they can throw at these things, bringing the old actors back, there's no reason that they can't just give us what they want, other than the fact that they just don't want to. It's harder to do what they're doing than it is to just come out and have us not complain. I promise, it really is. All they had to do was focus on Vader and Kenobi, and we would be talking about a completely different series.
You know what I
And
want
my experience
instead.
doesn't matter what they give you. People are going to complain about Star Wars. Someone's going to complain in one way or another. It's just, yeah.
I don't mind like some people complaining. It's not even like I'm not even thinking about those people actually. I'm just thinking about for myself. Like I don't feel like you're gonna give us a story that's sort of worthy enough to tell and still being true to canon where like all these characters have to keep going forward. So I just think it's a challenge. What I would love to see, don't give us season two, give us the Adventures of Skywalker. You can give us more about Luke in his prime, going around the galaxy, policing the hell out of it on his own with R2 in the back, just flying around. That's all I want. He doesn't got to do
Yeah,
anything.
and there's so
Just
much Legends material to explore there too.
make him an
I
Uber
agree with you
driver.
totally, but
Yeah,
I mean, I'm telling
Make
you
him a
right now.
DoorDash delivery guy. That's all. Like I don't even care. Just seeing Skywalker around and go back and hire who's the guy that plays Winter Soldier? I forgot his name.
Sebastian Stan.
Sebastian Stan. Go hire Sebastian Stan like you should have done, or at least like you can do. Just give him a wig and he looks like Mark Hamill, a
You
young Mark
know,
Hamill.
you say that, and I've been saying this for years. Ted knows this, and Matt, I don't think you've heard this. I still want my Palpatine prequel series or prequel movie.
I
I
would
still
love it.
want
Ooh.
the
I would
backstories
love
on.
it, and I love that era. That's why I kind of like Episode One so much.
Yeah,
There was a lot more politics in Episodes 1 through 3 than there was 4 through 6. And
yeah.
the way that Galaxy worked and his rise to gaining that political power, but also the story of him undercover training to be a Sith is definitely one of the biggest stories I would ever want to see produced. Like that's top two, and it's not two.
If he's the one that kills Darth Plagueis, remember
Yeah,
that he
Ooh, that would
yeah,
be awesome.
give me that, give me that Darth Sidious. Give me. We went a dark route in this episode of Obi
yeah,
Wan with Vader snapping necks. You can give me a prequel of a villain.
yeah,
Make it rated R. I don't give a
for
crap. I
sure.
mean, it's gonna be insane. So
But the
yeah,
rule of two is crazy with the Sith, right? Because there really is no room for upward growth. It's a bottleneck in the corporate structure. Um, that's why again, and I'm not going to go back into it, but that's why I think Riva might have other ambitions. Because with the rule of two, you know that I mean, it's going to be very difficult for you to obtain a spot of any worthiness with the Sith because the rule of two kind of bottlenecks that for a while with Palpatine being crazy and wanting to live forever. Is that something that she has in her mind she wants to do moving forward? I don't know.
yeah.
Well, it's also good that the rule of two is exists because then you always have this battle for like supremacy. Like anybody who wants to get in, they have to decide: do we
Yeah,
take out the
like
top guy or do we take
it's
out the lower
it's a
guy?
capitalist system. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's free market, baby. Competition wins.
Daniel says, "Yeah, that would be cool to see him find Maul and train him." Absolutely. Oh, the very last thing I have to see, and this will be a good enough arc for Kenobi, in my opinion, is that at the start of this series he is extremely hesitant on continuing any sort of legacy with the Jedi, and it even results in the death of one of his peers. So by the end of this season I need to see Kenobi not only assisting but helping to locate Jedi and at least set them up in a supporting sort of spot or place for them. That way they can thrive in some fashion for another day. Um, he's just been sitting back while they've all been hunted. And it really sucks to kind of see that. But I understood where he was at the beginning of the season, but that just can't be where he is at the end of the season. And that's just a sign of good writing, unlike Halo. So if
Yeah.
you do that,
I don't give a shit.
then I will be appreciative at least that Kenobi has a satisfactory arc. He's
Mhm.
going to
Yeah.
survive this final confrontation with Vader, and hopefully by the end, he's doing a
He
lot
he
more
hands it off to Cal
to.
Kestis. What a great
Mhm.
scene. This is your mission now. Kenobi says to him, he hands whatever information over he needs to Cal. Cal goes off and does this thing, and Kenobi goes back on his mission to watch Luke. We never have to deal with him again till A New Hope, and then maybe we can get Cal Kestis moving forward. But anyways, I digress.
Love
There
to
you
see it.
go. There you go. If you're watching this video at a later time, or if you're listening to the audio version of this episode on your podcast app, we want to hear from you. Let us know what you thought about episodes 3 and 4 of the Kenobi series, and let us know how you think this is all going to end. Will it all wrap up nice and neatly in a satisfying present for the rest of the fandom, or are we in for a bumpy ride? You can send us a message on Facebook by clicking that send message button. You can email us also on the contact page of our website at www.countdowntothegeekcast.com. A trailer dropped recently that we should discuss, and we hope you at home got a chance to see it as well. But the Black Adam trailer finally dropped. The first full trailer finally dropped. We got that teaser a while back, but this is the first full trailer featuring Dwayne Johnson and the Justice Society of America. Adam Smasher, Doctor Fate, one of my favorites. We got who else? Cyclone. We also got Hawkman. A lot of heroes. No big bad yet. I think they're saving that for a future trailer or a future major reveal. But this is still a movie that it really is confounding to me. Black Adam is a villain in most iterations of the comics as well as the animated films, and this is sort of teetering on anti-hero but leaning more to the anti part about that than the hero part about that. So it's still a little bewildering to me, you know, when this takes place, how this all transpires. Um, and so I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna be interested to see what happens. I'm a big Doctor Fate fan, but I will still be wondering up until the lights go down and the movie starts, like how all this is gonna shape out. And I'm fine with not understanding the full narrative that they're going to try and portray, but it will still be a big question mark in my head. Like, how is this? How are they really trying to do this? Um, it's so bizarre that we're getting a Black Adam movie, and yet he's working potentially alongside other heroes, and there's also elements of him existing in the past but showing up in the sort of the present because you see modern technology, modern weapons. And so
FedEx. Yeah.
yeah,
So
absolutely. So very, very strange how this is all working out. But let's get your thoughts on the trailer. JC, what about you, man?
trailer. I like that it left. It didn't leave a lot of story elements out there. We know he's awakened. We know he has power. We know he doesn't want to be a hero. And it gave us just enough action to be like, okay, you know. Um, Brosnan as Doctor Fate is
Perfect.
interesting. It's perfect, but it's definitely interesting too. It's like, man, this guy went from being 007 to Doctor Fate. It's pretty damn crazy, you know. So, but I did enjoy the trailer. I say this every time. Don't give me the story in the trailer, but I just know there's going to be a second trailer that might just going to reveal and give away who the potential villain is. But you know, if the trailer is any hint at what's going on, maybe we're getting a villain origin story, if you will, with Black Adam. You know, so I don't know. That's interesting to me how they
It could
portray that.
be. Daniel says Black Adam has been an anti-hero more recently in the comics since like Final Crisis. Interesting. All right. All right. I need to get caught up on Final Crisis. Maddie, what about you, sir? Your thoughts on the trailer? Oh,
Can't hear you.
not getting any
Sorry.
audio right now.
Yeah,
You're
I
good.
muted myself, so I wasn't burping on camera.
Okay,
Um,
appreciate it.
We appreciate
no,
that.
but
Yeah.
yeah, no, I thought it looked really good. The CG, everything about it looked really good. My main concern always with the Dwayne Johnson is that I don't want him. I don't want The Rock to overpower the role a little bit, which is possible with him in movies. I don't want him to. I don't want it to feel more like The Rock than it does. The character. I also wonder how they might tie in the Shazam. Because like you think like down the road, eventually maybe they'll have Black Adam and Shazam there, but I think The Rock would way overpower Zachary Levi like next to him. Like Black Adam would just look so much more powerful than Shazam. But I don't know. I think it looks all right. Again, we don't have much storyline or anything to go on, but my main concern is I hope that The Rock doesn't take away from learning about a new character. It just doesn't overdo it.
You're right about that. And it's very evident sort of in this trailer that it's not that he's not trying hard enough. It's just like what could you possibly do? Like you could have sort of a more of changing his tone of voice or giving him an accent, more of an ancient type sound or feel
Yeah,
to it.
he's an ancient
um
Egyptian, you know?
Absolutely. Like, yeah, do I mean, you could possibly do that, but maybe it doesn't work out with Dwayne Johnson. Maybe it's just something that he couldn't do, or maybe he thought it wasn't right for the character. Who knows? But what else could you do? Daniel says his concern is going to be a human enemy since he's fighting mercenaries. I would also agree that would be a
Scorpion King Black
concern.
That's
Scorpion King Black.
Adam.
I would agree that that would be a concern. That's kind of how I felt with Captain Marvel. It was just like she's so overpowered. Like there's literally nothing you could do to stop her or to like make this final act that really interesting because she was just so much stronger than everybody else. That's why I feel like there's a big bad that they are saving. And
yeah.
I'm like 90, 89. I'm like 89% sure there's a reveal that's coming in a future trailer where they're gonna give us a little bit more of a hint on who that big bad might be. But not sure who it is. Brett says as long as there's no smolder in the movie, it'll be good. Or a rock eyebrow. There you go.
Yeah,
People's eyebrow.
Yeah,
it's funny. He
Um,
says,
and he
like,
just
here's
delivers
a
the people's elbow to the big bad.
yeah. We might see one rock bottom, but he might just take him. Uh, Although Daniel, you say Scorpion King Black Adam. If you're a wrestling fan, you'll know. Stand back. There's a hurricane coming through. That would be a hell of a cameo. It's probably not going to happen. So
Mhm.
there you go.
yeah, who the big bad is in this is that's that. I like that they left that a mystery. That's kind of cool. So
It is, and also listen, it can't be an enemy. It can't be a human enemy
no,
because you don't bring in a character like Doctor Fate, one of the most powerful characters in the DC universe, and have sort of the enemy be of a human or an army or a faction or another country, something along those lines. It's got to be somebody worthy enough to put Black Adam and Doctor Fate as an opposing force. And so, whoever that may be, Daniel says it could be Gog, Gog. I don't know who Gog is. I gotta look that up. But yeah, it's got to be somebody along those lines. A powerful enough character, a demon, a cosmic entity, a godlike figure. Um, he's a god, but not well known, but big Justice Society of America villain. See, there you go. Something along those lines. You got Fate, you got Black Adam. It's got to be somebody powerful enough to go toe to toe with these two, and that's a big shoe to fill. Is going toe to toe against these two characters. So yeah, those are my
But
thoughts on
yeah,
that.
I see him setting it up as like kind of like an Aquaman, like they have to go to this disgruntled, powerful person that's going to be Black Adam. There's going to be a big bad that someone needs help with, and they basically just have to convince him that it's in his interest to use his powers for good in this instance instead of whatever it is that he cares about, and then he has to go take care of it. I just hope it's not as. It seems like that's what it's setting up towards. So I just hope that it's not that.
I hope that this is still connected to Shazam and the lore that they've already established. Um,
I
I
I
think they very much were talking about Black Adam. They were going over the lore about the one that sort of went against the gods and kind of did his own thing. I
yeah
was really looking forward to that being Black Adam and there being a future movie set up against those two. So I'm really hoping that lore and that yeah, that all stays in place and we get to see that in the future.
yeah. I hope they keep. I think that was the original plan was to do a Black Adam movie, and then you get then the Shazam sequel. They're both in there. On
There
some
you go.
fight.
Yeah, but how do you think that Zach is going to look next to The Rock? I mean, it's gonna. It's. I don't know. I can't
I get
imagine
what
them
you're saying,
on
but
screen together.
yeah, but this is I mean, it's The Rock. This is kind of the whole hero
Mm,
versus villain thing, So
yeah.
it's yeah. So
Brett in the chat says Sabak was released as one of the Black Adam toys. That would be interesting, and I'm down with that. I will also say I've gotten my hopes up from time to time with characters being released in toy lines because um what's his name? Red Mask? What's his name on the Marvel side? Is it Red Mask? What am I thinking of?
I don't
Uh, Red Skull, sorry. Red
know.
Skull was released in a toy line for Captain America and the Winter Soldier. And I'm just like, "Oh my god, there's a Red Skull toy. He's got to be in the movie." And it totally didn't happen. So, I'd say most of the time the toys plan out the way they're supposed to with how they're released, but every now and then you get a little thing that kind of doesn't work out the way you thought it would. The plan was for Black Adam to be the Man of Steel 2 villain. That's interesting. I've
I gave it up.
heard
That could still happen. So
yeah, I've heard a
Yeah.
couple of different and that probably was the plan. I also heard that they once were talking about Brainiac being the Man of Steel 2 villain, and I would have loved to have seen that. Live action Brainiac because they've done they've done the CW version which was and then they've done the Krypton version, which was incredible. And so, if you could do that on Krypton, the TV series, then you can also do something even better in a live action movie version of Brainiac. That would be amazing.
And The Rock and Black Adam have been teased for a long time, right?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, this was announced like
they made
7,
Shazam.
6 years
Yeah,
ago.
just like everything. So, but yeah, Krypton gave us the best Brainiac. It gave us the best Lobo. It gave us the best Doomsday. It's hard to top any of that, and they're gonna be hard pressed if they bring Brainiac back. You really gotta have the right person in mind for it. So,
Daniel says 2013, so 9 years. 9 years since we've known
yeah.
Dwayne Johnson was going to be Black Adam.
Yeah. They've been holding him
Longest.
off, but they probably weren't paying him enough. I mean, he's been just put it over under right now on the amount of movies The Rock has been in since 2013. I'm gonna say over. I'm
Fast
gonna
and the
say
Furious.
over 12.
Yeah. So
I was going to say about, 12 sounds about right. I was going to say like 15.
Yeah.
half of those were Fast and the Furious and Hobbs and Shaw. I'm pretty sure. So, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's funny about the Black Adam trailer too, because there was a scene because you know how Fast and Furious transferred from just being like street racers to like superheroes, basically. Like they're just incredible. There is a scene in the Fast and Furious, one of the newer ones, where a rocket is blasting off of a ship, and the Rock or Hobbs kind of catches it and like holds it and keeps it from going, which is insane. That could never happen. But I think they poke fun of that in the Black Adam trailer because he catches a little
Catches a
tiny rocket. Yeah.
There you go. If you have any thoughts on the Black Adam trailer, let us know in the comments, or you can or you can send us a message on Facebook by clicking that send message button, or email us on the contact page of our website at www.countdowntothegeekcast.com. Daniel says his schedule has been full. He needs to say, "I'll ride with you, fate." Absolutely, that'd be amazing. All right, we're actually going to switch gears now from Star Wars and DC over to Marvel, and we're going to give you our
No,
thoughts on
before
the.
everyone knows, because I know some people said in the
Okay.
comments they were going to leave before Miss started Miss Marvel. But I will say non-spoilery
Can we
thumbs
do
up.
that? Let's do that. Let's do a non-spoiler talk
For
then.
those wondering, hey, should I watch it? I will not watch it. I'm
Yeah.
going to give it a
I'm
thumbs
out.
up so far. I know
What are you
you're in.
doing? I just said non-spoilers, no spoiler talk.
It's I like what they did. I like the cast. I like this world that's set up, and there's very much a geek feel to this. Is what I really enjoyed about it too. You know, um,
Yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't know a whole lot about this character,
I've
but I
heard
liked what I
nothing but
saw from
great
the
things about it.
yeah.
I've heard
So,
nothing but
Let's
great
see here.
things so far.
I did write notes, but let me see what I wrote that isn't spoilery. I mean, if I'm being honest, nothing in the first episode is real spoiler territory. It's really just establishing sort of this character, her family, her persona. She's a teenager. She's a little bit awkward, like most of us nerds were back in those days. And she comes from a Pakistani family, which, if you pay attention to all of these TV series that deal with parents from other cultures or parents who are minorities in most cases, they tend to kind of all have the same stereotype. Minority parents seem to be a lot more overprotective of their kids.
more concerned. Yeah,
Turning Red was like that. The animated film Turning Red by Disney was like that. Yeah, so it's kind of the thing that happens. So episode one, no spoilers, right? But episode one, they're really just setting up this character, and they're really just kind of establishing the world she lives in, the family dynamic. But I was really happy with how they told the story. So no details about the story itself, but the way they told it was very interesting, very reminiscent of a handful, like two or three tops, of other projects that we've seen or even talked about on this show. I won't say what they were, but it's so entertaining the way they've decided to tell not only the story of Miss Marvel, but also how she feels and also how she thinks. There was a Netflix animated film that came out last year that totally took me by surprise, and I'll mention it on our spoiler talk next time. But it was sort of done in that vein where it's very eclectic. It's a very eclectic way of telling the story, and so I highly recommend you watch Miss Marvel. It was hilarious. I was entertained from start to finish. I was laughing my tail off for most of the episode, and I can't wait to see how it turns out. I like the actress Iman Vellani, and
Yeah.
I think she did fantastic. And I kind of like, again, I like the family dynamic. It is something that we've seen from time to time, but I really appreciate it. Shout out to Brett who purchased my daughter a Captain Marvel jacket when she was like 1, and the jacket, I think it was a hand me down from his daughter. But as soon as the episode started, I'm like, oh, this girl's a Captain Marvel fan girl, which you could have told from the trailer. And so I was like, "Hey, my daughter's name is Liana." I was like, "Liana, do you want to wear your Captain Marvel jacket like her?" And she's like, "Yeah." So she wore the Captain Marvel jacket the entire episode. So yeah, it was pretty
Very cool.
awesome. Brett says Miss Marvel is fun, good characters and acting, and so much to see in the background. Daniel says I've just been busy. I haven't even gotten to see the boys yet. Oof, you got to watch the boys. The boys are so good. Daniel says, "How was the older brother?" He had some moments. He was sort of in the background most of the episode. He kind of comes in as the parents', golden child, which again, very stereotypical of
Yeah.
sort of minority families,
Why
especially
can't you be more
in,
like him? Yeah.
yeah,
So
absolutely, especially in like Asian cultures as well. That's sort of a thing. But yeah, and Brett says that's awesome. Yes,
yeah.
that jacket, perfect timing.
And there is a mid-credit scene. So make sure you stay for that too. Yes.
Ooh, there is a mid credit scene. I totally forgot about that. Yes, we
Yeah.
will discuss the mid credit scene. This definitely does have ties to some very recent Marvel projects. So
Yeah.
not only is it sort of existing in this big world of like the Avengers existed once, and like our main character sort of has a infatuation with not only the Avengers but specifically Captain Marvel. But you actually have some other ties. I won't mention exactly what it is, but I'm very excited to talk about it in depth. We'll probably talk about it tomorrow. We're also going to continue our Young Justice talk tomorrow.
Oh
We're
man.
waiting on Jericho, but we haven't spoken about the last 2 episodes of season 4 of Young Justice Phantoms. And so, if you haven't seen those yet, I highly recommend you watch them by tomorrow, because tomorrow is when we go all in and talk about the last 2 episodes. Did Steady's predictions pan out? Did they kind of pan out, but they also pulled the fast one on us? Daniel says, "Lord Zod, yes, absolutely. What a season!" But yeah, more spoiler discussion regarding Miss Marvel tomorrow. We also continue our Young Justice talk. We conclude our Young Justice talk tomorrow, and then if we have time, maybe Soups and Lois. We still gotta
Superman and
finish
Lois, my God,
Soup and
because we're
Lois.
we're getting a what 2 week a 1 week break.
It's
Yeah,
so
we're
weird.
getting a break here, and then they're gonna conclude it. But I don't know why CW does. CW does it because who knows? But it's this series is that good. They leave you wanting more. It's amazing. So yeah,
But it
it's.
also kind of takes us out of it. It takes us out of the hype because
I
it's
know
it's so
they're trying to
long.
introduce all these new superheroes. Just give me Superman. They're trying to attach all these new shows to Superman and Lois. Just give me Superman and Lois, man. I mean,
And
it's so good.
real quick, for the folks at home, JC finally saw Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness last night. I will give you
Yes.
2 minutes to give us a non-spoilery summary of your thoughts,
Uh,
and go.
First off, shout out to my parents for giving my wife and I a last minute date night so that we could see the movie. And I enjoyed it. I've made it. I made it a point to not listen to anything Joe says when it
I don't
comes to
know.
because I know he's probably wrong. But I thought this was it was told pretty well. It was told very well. It has Sam Raimi all over it
Yeah.
from some of the horror elements to it. It was definitely freaky. Definitely something that we're not going to be showing the kids anytime soon. We have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, but I think it did a marvelous job, especially with America Chavez. Uh, what I will say I enjoyed the most is that the trailers did a masterful job of hiding who the villain really is. And I would say more, but I feel like I get into spoiler territory. But when and if we ever do talk about that film, there's going to be a lot to say. But my wife and I really did enjoy the film. We really thought it was a such a great piece, and there was some great cameos, some shocking visuals, but it was definitely the darkest I think the MCU has gone, potentially, that with short of Infinity War, I guess you could say. So it's just crazy, creepy, and dark. It was amazing. So
Daniel says, "Leave it to Sam Raimi to focus on a movie with an evil book." Absolutely, I never even put that
yeah, so
reference together. I never put
yeah.
two and two together that way, but yeah, completely.
By
His
the way,
uniform's
Bruce
all over
Campbell's
it.
little cameo. Yes, if you haven't seen it yet, there's a mid-credit and an end-credit scene, and Bruce Campbell's got to appear in every Sam Raimi movie, and it's amazing. So, dude's a legend. Yeah. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
And yeah, that'll do it for the Countdown to the Geekcast. Lastly, I just want to quickly talk about something, a quick adventure me and Maddie had this past weekend. The Geekcast was invited to the unveiling of the Superheroes and Villains exhibit, the collection by Spurs legend Tony Parker, who, if you're in the San Antonio area, has displayed his entire collection of superhero and villain statues at the San Antonio Museum of Art. And you could see these statues in all their glory through September 4th. I highly recommend it. Just make it a day. It'll probably take you an hour maybe to see everything and really soak it all in. But yeah, I highly recommend it. Had very short and brief appreciation to tell Tony. He's just a very busy guy with a lot going on. Um, and we also got to shake hands and talk with the mayor of San Antonio a little bit. So, Matt, anything you want to say about Tony's exhibit, which I'm calling the biggest geek flex that anyone could possibly do, is to
Yeah.
just put up an exhibit of all your fantastic toys. What did you think about it, and what was maybe your favorite part about it?
It was awesome because his bank account is quite a lot larger than ours. So as geeks, a lot of times
A little bit.
you want to collect action figures, and he just took that to a whole different level. He basically bought, you know, more than life sized, even huge replicas of these characters that we know and love, and they're very realistic. Some of them, I know the Batman section alone. I posted into a Batman group, and it has like over 400 likes and like 65 shares of people just adoring them. He even had the Arkham Knight from the video game, which you wouldn't expect to always see there. A lot of people have movie ones, but to see the Arkham Knight from the video game, I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah.
The Hulkbuster was massive. What did he call her in the was it low it was Lisa or Alice or something? Tony's name for the Hulkbuster, but it's something
Veronica.
like Veronica. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And so it was incredible. I would definitely go check it out. And the best part, definitely, for me, was the free drinks. And they had these meatballs with a nice spicy crema that you could dip them into, and that was my second favorite part. Third favorite part was the action figures, but I'm just a big booze and food guy.
Mm.
Absolutely. And I will kind of piggyback off that. My favorite part of the exhibit that was probably Justice League Batman, Ben Affleck's towering figure on display with the rest of the Justice League from the Snyder Cut. But that Hulkbuster, I kind of always felt like in the movies he was around 20 to 25 ish kind of feet. But no, that Hulkbuster is like 40 feet tall, and it's
Mhm.
just towering. and yet like you can kind of see all the very minute details of this statue, like where all the joints are. I almost feel like you can move sort of the fingers if you wanted to and things like that. It was just that well thought out. So I highly recommend it. I think it's a great time, or it's a great place to kind of take the entire family. And right now you can check out the Tony Parker's superhero and villains exhibit at the San Antonio Museum of Art through September 4th. This is all being put on by our friends at Celebrity Fan Fest, who are also putting on the Superhero Car Show and Comic Con August 4th through the 7th at the Freeman Expo Hall in San Antonio. And they're also going to have somebody who we've been talking about all night, Ewan McGregor, there. Hopefully, you got your photo ops or your signing tickets already, because I think those are going to be the first to sell out. Are the ones for Ewan McGregor. For more information, visit pmxevents.com. You will also find Paul Bettany, Stephen Amell, Alan Ritson, Diane Guerrero, and
Mhm.
of course Ernie Hudson and Dan Aykroyd from the original Ghostbusters team. Tony Parker was also the latest guest to be announced. So if you want to get some Spurs memorabilia signed, now's your opportunity. Tony Parker will be in attendance as a featured guest at the Superhero Car Show and Comic Con August 4th through 7th. For more information and to get tickets or photo op or autograph tickets, head on over to pmxevents.com.
I first of all, thanks for inviting Mike to go part of that. I know he had a great time. He just enjoyed going out there. Trust me, he told me all about it. But secondly, I want to know who's going to have the longer line: Tony Parker or Ewan McGregor?
Oh, unfortunately, in this city, that's a good one. It's a
Yeah,
toss up.
that's
That
going to
I,
be
is a toss
the
yeah.
up.
chances to have met Tony Parker are a lot higher than the chances to have met Ewan McGregor. I think Ewan will edge him out slightly.
Yeah, it's gonna be close
Slightly.
though. Yeah. So
There you
But
go.
it's good that he's going to be there, and it's cool. We met Bob while we were there, and
mhm.
all that. It's super cool. I love that these guys are putting these things together. This event is something I'm really really excited for. I want to see the Blues Brothers perform as well. Um,
Mhm.
it's just better than your average everyday Comic Con. A lot of good guests.
Absolutely. Stay
Sure.
tuned for more information regarding the Superhero Car Show and Comic Con, as well as some potential events that we might be help putting on leading up to that. So be sure to like, subscribe, follow for more information to stay up to date with what's going to be happening leading up to that tremendous event. And that'll do it for this episode of the Countdown City Geekcast. Once again, let us know your thoughts about Kenobi, Miss Marvel, the Black Adam trailer. Drop it in the comments below, or you could send us a message on Facebook by typing the send message button, or you can always email us on the contact page of our website at www.countdowncitygeekcast.com. Appreciate Brett and Rudy for dropping stars on this stream. Brett, you are our number one leader right now. Congrats, man. King of the Hill. Look at that. If you want to help support the show, be sure to send some stars our way. We appreciate everything. It helps us to not only put on more content like this, but to hold more events like we did last week when we held a Uvalde benefit at the Kung Fu Saloon in San Antonio, Texas. I had all my Ghostbusters brethren join us. We not only partied, but we collected over 55 donations that were sent straight to the families in Uvalde by using the Uvalde School District's Memorial Fund they established just a few weeks before. So thank you to everybody who attended. Thank you to everybody who made donations. We even had some people that made donations prior to the event. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Cannot thank you enough. Anything that we can do to help that community is well worth it. And I just think that we have so many people in this city that want to assist. And even more so, shout out to Rob and Kevin, who are part of our Ghostbuster team, who actually drove out to Uvalde today to help bring a little bit of put a smile and bring some positive vibes to the kids and the families in that community. All right. For the Countdown to the Geekcast, my name is Steady. Joining me on this episode once again is a man, myth, legend. You know him as JC.
Thanks for watching, listening, everyone. Stay tuned this week. More Geekcast, more WrestleCast. A lot of going on in the world of wrestling too. And Horns are up 10-1, top of the 7th. So hook them and just bring the rain back with you guys.
There you
Love
go.
it. Yep.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And last but definitely not least, my partner in crime, my Ghost Heads radio show co-host, the one and only Matty B.
Later, guys. Love you.
Peace. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a good night.
Yeah.